Hi everyone, it's Christine here from Ever After Paper Crafts, and I'm really excited today to be sharing with you this fun underwater scene that I have created. Here's the card that we're going to be working on today. It's a super fun kind of underwater scene with a little bit of sand at the top and this cute little mermaid. The stamp set that I am using today is called Mermazing, and it's from My Favorite Things, and it's a relatively new release. You can purchase coordinating dies separately to cut the images out if you like, and it has some really sweet little sentiments to it as well. So let me begin this video by apologizing. I have another sinus infection, so I'm behind on my posting and videos this week, and I apologize for that. And I also apologize for how funny my voice sounds today as I fight through this awful sinus infection. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to talk about how I created the background. And the first thing that I did was I took, these happen to be the wonky rectangle dies from My Favorite Things. You can use any rectangular dies that you have on stash, or just cut a regular rectangle or whatever size that you like with a paper trimmer. But whatever you decide to do, cut 2 of them. Alright, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to just put one aside, bring one out, grab a piece of scratch paper, and we're going to do some blending with our distress inks and with our blending tools. So we're going to be using Antique Linen, Vintage Photo, and Walnut Stain, and these are for our sand that we're going to be creating. We're going to start with Antique Linen. Now you're not going to need to go all the way down for this. As you could see in the finished card here, we just have a little bit of sand at the top, but I want to go down enough so that I don't, have a mistake later on and have to go back and redo it. So I'm just going to put Antique Linen everywhere quickly here to just get a base of color down. And I'm just going about halfway, but again, when I have my waves on there, I'm not going to have needed that much space. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to use some Vintage Photo, and we're just going to start off our paper and kind of go in just a little bit and around the outside edge, and just blend that in with the Vintage Photo. With the Antique Linen rather. The first color that we put in, we just kind of blend them together, and I'm leaving some softness in the middle. And we're going to do the same with the Walnut Stain as well, except we're going to go even lighter on the Walnut Stain because it is our darkest color, so we don't want to go too dark with it. So I'm just kind of going to lightly blend that in just along the outside edge of the, the little singing scene here that we're creating. Okay, that's looking good to me. So what I'm going to do now, and I'm going to go back to the I keep saying that, to the Antique Linen, which was our very first color, and I'm just going to kind of fill in the middle just a little bit more and make it just a little bit darker with the light color, and also blend that harsh line away between the lighter color and the darker colors. Okay, that looks really good. So we are done with our brown distress ink, so let's remove all of the pads quickly here. And then we will be all set to move on to our waves. Whoops, I'm throwing distress inks all over the place here. All right, there we go. Okay, so what we want to do first, before we move on to the waves, I'm going to take my distress sprayer, and I'm going to do a little bit of spray on this brown background, the sand background. And then I'm going to take some paper towel and just blot it away. And it's just going to give it some distressed look. Now, I didn't get as much at the top as I meant to, and that's what's mostly going to show. So I'm going to go back and kind of really spritz the top of this, because again, our waves are going to cover up much of this. And so this is what we're left with, just a really cool distressed look. And by the way, I did use Bristol Smooth cardstock on these. That is my favorite for doing ink blending with distress inks. Okay, so let's set this aside to dry. I'm going to turn this over And now I'm going to show you how I did the waves. So pull over now your other rectangle that you created, and I used 3 colors of Distress inks. I used Seedless Preserves, Peacock Feather, and Salty Ocean. And these are just the regular Distress inks. These are not the oxides. They do not make the oxides in these colors yet. But I am hearing that there's going to be more oxides released in some bright colors. So we could get lucky here soon, and there could be some more of these colors, because I do love those oxide inks. All right, I'm going to start with the Salty Ocean. And I'm just going to, there's no magic to what I'm doing here. There really isn't. I'm just kind of going around the scene here and kind of just inking every which way, wherever I want. No magic at all. All right. That looks a mess right now, but I promise it will all come together in a moment. Let's actually go to our purple, which is our Seedless Preserve. And I kind of wanted the purple in the middle. So I'm going to just kind of put some of that in the middle. And now I'm going to use the Peacock Feathers to sort of blend that purple out a little bit and add some nice kind of turquoise-ish color to this beautiful underwater scene that we are creating. Alright, now we're going to go back to our blue, which is the Salty Ocean, to blend a little bit more of this purple out. Okay, now I need to work a little bit down in here. There's some lines where I put the purple. So we're just going to try to blend some of those lines out. And we're going to get our greeno color and do the same thing. And all I'm doing is I'm just going in a circular motion, blending out those harsher lines so that it looks kind of like a seamless transition from color to color. Now we're going to go and add just a little bit more of that. Whoops, I got my fingerprints slightly in this back corner here, so let me dab those out. Okay, now we're going to add just a little bit of purple in again, because we don't want to lose that really pretty purple color. So see, I've added that purple back in just a little bit. And now we just want to smooth it out with our other 2 colors again. All right, and I think that that looks really, really pretty. Except for my fingerprints down here in the corner that I'll clean up super quick. Okay, so I think that that looks really good, and it's going to look even better in a moment when we spray it with water and do the distress magic that these inks do with water. I really, really, really love that effect. So let's go ahead and put these distress inks away. I love this combination too. I use this combination a lot. This color combination in terms of distress inking. It's a really great combo. These colors go together really well. Okay, so now we're going to take our distress sprayer and we're going to do the same thing we did with the sand. And remember, with the distress sprayer, pulling it down 3/4 of the way down will actually result in blobs as opposed to spray, which is really cool for creating your underwater scenes. I'm so sorry, guys. Excuse me. All right. So this is going to look really cool. So this is what we have when we're all done. Isn't that neat? Really, really, really cool effect that water spray has with the distress inks. Now, one final thing that's kind of fun to do, and I forgot to, I'm going to put a little bit of water from my sprayer into my cup here. And I'm going to take an acrylic block, and I'm going to put some cheap acrylic white paint on, just a little tiny bit, on my on my clear block. This was 97 cents, this particular paint at Michael's, so you don't need anything fancy. I'm going to wet it with my paintbrush. This is a very cheap paintbrush, and I'm going to just simply flick it off the block onto this panel, like so. And as you can see, little dots are starting to form. I'll bring it up to the camera in a moment. Let me get a little bit more water in it. And this is just kind of a fun effect. I like to do this when I'm creating galaxy backgrounds for the obvious reason that, you know, galaxy backgrounds are, they would represent stars. But I also like to do it with my underwater scenes simply because when you're in the ocean, you see the kind of the white froth that the waves leave behind. So I often think it's just kind of a neat little finishing touch to have on your ocean scene. So there you can see kind of the little white splotches that have been created. And then what you would want to do is set this aside to dry. Now, because we're on video here, I've already done this off camera. Now let me show you how I use some dyes to create my waves. These dyes happen to be from the My Favorite Things Ocean Waves Dyes collection. These are relatively inexpensive and wonderful dyes. I really recommend these for scenes such as this. So what I did, there's 5 different types of waves that you get in this one dye set. I used 3 of them, and I started with this bottom one here, and I put it here, you know, anywhere, just anywhere. I put it about right here and ran it through my die cut machine. And I've already done this off camera, and this is what I was left with. Okay, so you set that aside. Then I did this one twice, here and here. So I have 2 of those, and these are what I was left with. Set those aside. And then I have this one at the top here. And this is what I was left with, if that makes sense. Okay, so set this aside. I can use this for another card in the future. Now you're going to bring back over the stand panel that you just created. And I'm going to take my tape runner and I'm going to just put tape along the bottom for now because I want to leave the top open so that I can slide these in. But I almost forgot a really fun little extra oomph that I added to these waves. I have some StazOn white ink. You can use any white ink that you have. I use StazOn because it dries quickly, and I used a sponge dauber. And I'm going to take that sponge dauber and I'm going to dip it into the white paint. I mean the white paint, gosh, I'm still back on that, on the paint sprays, into the white ink rather. And I am going to ink the tips of the waves. This will show, this will kind of differentiate the waves from the other waves we're going to be sliding behind them, so they will stand out really nicely. It's just kind of a nice little added, I think, just a nice little added extra to the project, which hopefully it might not show up super well on camera, but I'm hoping that the pictures on my blog, and I'll have a link to that in the description box of this video, but I'm hopeful that the pictures will at least show it, because it really does kind of add just a little bit of extra dimension to the waves, and I just think it's a nice little touch. So let me quickly finish this, and I'm doing this very quickly here just for the purposes of the video, but just gives it that added little extra dimension and helps those waves pop. Okay, let me stick this back on. All right. So we are done with our white ink. Okay, so now let's go back to bringing that panel over, and I already put some adhesive on the bottom of this bottom row of waves, and we're just going to stick this, line it up at the bottom like so. Okay, there you go. So now this top portion is open, and that's because I'm going to take I'm so sorry, guys. I'm going to take this and we're just going to be sliding this underneath it. So we're going to take some adhesive to the bottom of this particular next little grouping of waves, and we're going to slide it right under and stick it down. All right, and then we're going to do the same with this one. Stick it down. This one's fighting me a little bit. There we go. And then finally, we'll do the same thing to this one. Put that adhesive along the bottom. And there you have it. And there are your waves. And you can see, you'll see better in the photographs, I think, but you can see how adding that white stays on ink to the tips of the waves helps to distinguish the tips of the waves from the background behind it. So it just kind of adds a little bit of extra dimension to those waves and helps them stand out a little bit. So this is how we create our background. Now, because this video is already so long, because I wanted to really show you how I did the background, I went ahead and colored my little images off screen. If you would like to see a video of how I did the coloring of the mermaid, I hadn't done people before with my Zig markers, but I decided to give it a try. And, well, I guess she's technically not a person, is she? She's a, she's a mermaid, but anyway. I would be more than happy to do a video if you would like. Please just leave me a comment and I'd be happy to jump on and just do a coloring of one. But I will tell you the colors that I used for her hair, and it took me, oh, my fingers are all inky, I apologize for that. It took me a little while to find a good color combo that I really liked for her hair. I find that blonde hair and red hair and light brown hair are really easy, but a dark brown was kind of difficult for me. So I ended up just using brown and dark brown for her hair. Those, I didn't think they would look good to look good for hair, but they actually were perfect. So those were for her hair. I used, I got that multicolored look for her tail using purple and turquoise green. And all I did for that is I put the purple down in a line first, then the turquoise beside it, and then I took my water brush and kind of pulled that color out. And it left a little bit of the purple behind and a little bit of the green even, and then it mixed into a really pretty blue as well. So I really loved that for her tail. And then her shirt is turquoise green. And then her skin is what I always use for skin with the Zigs. It's flesh color and blush, and then for her cheeks I used light pink. And then the starfish is yellow and brown. And then I just did a little tiny bit of coloring on the two shells, and then I stamped the coral and the seaweed just in some inks that I had in my stash. So all that's left to do is I'm going to take a glue pen and kind of just stick these, pardon me, these seaweeds and such kind of underneath the waves a little bit, so they're just kind of scattered about. I'm going to go ahead and kind of just place for now my mermaid where I'm going to ultimately want her to go, so I can plan where I want everything else to be. And then kind of go from there. Let's see. I'm just doing this very quickly. There is no right or wrong method to where you put these things. Honestly, wherever you want is where it's going to go. There's no right or wrong to it. So that's where I've put those items. I'm going to go ahead and get some dimensionals for our mermaid, just so we can pop her up a little bit. And I would normally put more than this, but I just kind of want to go quickly for the video. We're going to stick her down. And then I'm going to stick my shells kind of up top. So they're kind of like being washed ashore onto the sand by the ocean. I thought that might be kind of cute. So there's one shell. And then here's the other. And this one's going to go kind of like under here. And then we have room up here for our sentiment. And I'm going to go ahead and bring over now the final card so you can just see a few other details that I added. I bat my wonky rectangle die with just a piece of black cardstock that's just 1/16 of an inch bigger on each side, and then placed everything on a regular 4.25 by 5.5 top folded note card. I covered everything with my Wink of Stella clear glitter pen, and then I added some sequins. The purple sequins come from Lucy's cards. They're part of the Pretty Pansy mix. And then the bubble looking sequins, they're actually really cool. They're not really sequins. They're almost like, well, bubbles. They're called clear round drops mix, and they're from Studio Katia. And I kind of sprinkled those around. I put my sentiment up here in the top left corner, and it's from the same stamp set. And then I added some fish, and I did want to show you that quickly because I want to show you that for the fish I did use the Distress Oxide inks, and I want to show you how great these actually stamp. I don't like to stamp with my regular Distress inks. They're more just for techniques, but the Distress, oops, that block's a little on the large side. Oh, okay. But the Distress Oxide inks can actually be stamped with, and it's really cool. So let me set that aside for a moment. Take the black cardstock away. I used Faded Jeans and the Distress Oxide ink to stamp my fish. And I just kind of place them randomly. There's no, again, no right or wrong way to do this. I'm just kind of stamping them wherever I want. And now I'm going to peel these off and put the bigger little grouping of fish, school of fish, I guess. And I'm going to turn them this way so they're kind of going in the other direction. And we're just going to stamp them down wherever we want. There we go. So that just kind of adds a little bit of dimension. I'm going to put one more down here. There we go. So that just kind of adds a little bit extra to our scene as well. So the last little bit then to do, which I'm not going to take your time to do on camera because it's pretty easy, is just to stamp that sentiment and then add your sequins. And of course, back the cardstock on the back and put the card base together. So that's it, guys. I hope that you enjoyed this. Thanks for hanging in there with me today with my cold, and thanks for watching, and I hope that this inspires you to try some Distress inking and some coloring with your zigs. And again, please do leave me a comment if you'd like to see me color the mermaid on camera. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.